The first one is The Alchemy of Chocolate by Debbie Young. Debbie Young has published 3 collections of short stories and will soon launch the first of her new Sophie Sayers Village Mystery Series, Best Murder in Show. Debbie runs the Hawkesbury Upton Literature Festival, the Cheltenham Authors Alliance, and the Alliance of Independent Authors Advice Centre Block. Debbie is never bored. This week is National Chocolate Week, so to read The Alchemy of Chocolate, please welcome Debbie Young.
The Alchemy of Chocolate. If you dip a wafer biscuit into a chocolate fountain enough times, eventually it won't fit in your mouth. Much the same had happened with Jennifer's body. It was as if every bar of chocolate that she'd ever eaten had been melted down and painted onto her frame. Oozing into hidden places, the fat encroached so gradually at first that Jennifer was slow to notice her transformation. Then, one summer's day, while sunbathing on her lawn, she realised that she'd no longer passed the fat test that she and her friends had used at school, the ability to lay a ruler flat across her hip bones. That was the best use they'd found for their geometry sets. By the time she came to squeeze into an old pair of cords for bonfire night, Jennifer observed that where her stomach had once been concave, it now billowed out like a ship in full sail. No wonder sleeping on her tummy had become uncomfortable. Trying on a party dress for New Year, she spotted that her waistline only curved inwards when elasticated clothing constrained her flesh. By the spring equinox, the fat had found new places to hide. Her eyelids were thicker, and when inserting an earring, she had to push harder before the post emerged on the other side of the lobe. Jennifer was glad when spring sunshine came early because it gave her licence to go bare-legged. Lately, tights had become irksome. Unless she aligned the waistband precisely with that of her knickers, skirt and petticoat, her silhouette resembled the scalloped edge of a doily on a plate of cakes. At Easter, Jennifer was quick to remove the temptation of her Easter eggs by eating them. But then at last, she decided to take action about her surplus fat. Precisely what actions, she was not sure. She was unwilling to relinquish chocolate, or indeed any kind of food, nor did she fancy exercising her way into shape. Poring over a list of how to burn calories, she was horrified by the ridiculous distance she'd have to run to work off a single bar of dairy milk. There had to be an easier way. It was just a question of dispersing fat rather than storing it. Then, lulled to sleep on Midsummer's Eve by an exceptionally delicious hot chocolate, Jennifer had a remarkable dream. She dreamed of the perfect recipe for weight loss. Next morning on waking, she knew exactly what to do. She rushed downstairs to her kitchen and assembled in a mixing bowl the ingredients dictated by her dream. Instead of stopping to wonder how this magical formula could require only store-cupboard staples, she got on with beating the mixture, her wooden spoon a biscuit-coloured blur. Once the batter was blended, she tipped it into a saucepan and set it over a low heat, chanting the mantra that had also come to her in the dream. When the mixture was as smooth and warm as the perfect waistline, she decanted it into a jug and popped it into the fridge. She knew instinctively that this was the correct next step. When she arrived at her office for work, she was so impatient for nightfall, the witching hour, or so her dream had told her, that she could hardly concentrate on her job. As soon as she arrived home, she slipped on her nightie, took the jug from the fridge, and with a medicine spoon, measured out the dose prescribed in her dream. She swallowed the quivering spoonful in a rush before she could change her mind, and retired to bed to await the results. The anxious fluttering in her tummy didn't stop her from tumbling into solid, dreamless sleep. Waking next morning, she climbed out of bed, slipped off her nightdress and flung it distractedly on the bed. Reaching with her right hand behind the back of her neck, she grasped what the previous night's dream had told her she would find, just above the nubbly bone at the top of the spine. A trapezoidal zip pull. She grasped the metal. Bending her head forward to clear her long dark hair out of the way, Jennifer tugged the zip pull between thumb and forefinger as far as she could. Then she stretched her left hand up behind her back to meet the right one and continued pulling the zip down slowly until it reached the base of her backbone. As the zip pull stopped abruptly at her coccyx, the thick flesh covering Jennifer's upper back and shoulders started to feel loose. Soon she was easing off the entire outer casing of flesh as instinctively as a snake sheds its skin. Wriggling her hips and thighs to dislodge the pudgy onesie, she sat down on the bed, peeled it off her calves, and finally stepped out of it onto the bedside rug. Only now did she have the courage to glance in the dressing table mirror. There, to her delight, in a flawless casing of fresh skin, was her slender teenage outline. It was like meeting a long-lost, much-missed friend. Glancing down at the discarded, Jennifer-shaped fat that lay perfectly still on the floor, she wondered what on earth to do with it. But of course it was recycling day. She could simply put it in the green wheelie bin. After all, it should compost down as readily as bacon rind. Better to throw it in the wheelie bin than put it out in the garden for the birds. With a new lightness of tread, Jennifer took a few steps around the bedroom. She felt decidedly different. The top of her thighs no longer rubbed together, her arms lay straighter against her sides, and she no longer felt that her stomach had been lagged like the insulating jacket wrapped around a hot water tank. Beginning to enjoy the full effect, Jennifer turned this way and that. But it wasn't the slim reflection in the dressing table mirror that caused her to smile. It wasn't the realisation that her low-cost recipe would fetch a fortune on the heaving market for diet products. Nor was it the recognition that she'd achieved every slimmer's dream of alchemy, turning fat into gold. It was the thought that she could now eat as much chocolate as she liked without ever having to worry about gaining weight. It was a dream come true.